What is the one group that can never be punished by God? What is the one group whose actions are unreconcilable? What is the one group that will always be forgiven? Within biblical literature, one might arise to the tale of Amalek, which from Amalek we arise to the Amalekites. At the Amalekites, we find a particular group whom Saul was sent to specifically slaughter as a result of specifically the Amalekites were responsible for the slaughtering of both men, women, and children of Israel. Now, at the particular time, you might say, how can these individuals be forgiven or never punishable by God? Unreconcilable, you could say. A conflict of interest, which is what the meaning of unreconcilable means. It is a conflict of interest. You cannot punish these individuals, but you cannot forgive them either. And so, ultimately, you cannot place a judgment upon these individuals. They are and forever will be accepted into heaven. In the tale of the Amalekites, one might find one particular notion. They were a people that were continuously covered in blood. In their brutishness or their particular procedures, you could say, the Amalekites were continuously covered in blood, resulting in the conflict of interest, the dark magic, you could say. What might have been an Amalekite? In my understanding of the biblical literature, the Amalekite, which stems from the word Amalek, Amalek stemming once again from the Hebrew Amal, which Amal stems for the term to labor. The Amalekites were the essential doctors, you could say, the birth givers. Now, which from these particular birth givers of the most ancient protected group within biblical literature, the unreconcilable, they cannot be punished nor forgiven. They always enter heaven. Why might they have always been covered in blood? You could imagine that the Amalekite, from being such an ancient tribe, they themselves would have developed systems to assist, to labor. In the covering of blood, you would imagine the Amalekite being the men and women that would perform the births of women. They were essentially the midwives, you could say, the individuals that performed the births. They assisted in the birthing process. And in being covered in blood, in order to bring life, once again you rise to the Amalekite, the doctors, the caregivers, which are continuously covered in blood, bringing individuals to life. And even in the birthing process, not every child is born alive. There are stillbirths that occur. In the stillbirth, you might find that you bring a dead child into the world. Said dead child is not alive, yet they are a body that is born into the world just the same. At the Amalekites, you find a conflict of interest, such as the perception of science and religion. In the Amalekites, you might find that, once again, they are not punishable, nor can they be forgiven, and they will always enter heaven, even beyond being responsible for the killings of men, women, and children of Israel. In the Amalekites, you find that in order to be a caregiver to assist in the life birthing process, these Amalekites to labor, you would find that these individuals delivering the lives would often have to deliver death as well, responsible for the bringing and killing of Israeli men, women, and children, the people of Israel. And these particular Amalekites, continuously covered in blood, the life source, the conflict of interest. We often speak of the biblical literature speaking of beauty and faith, but ultimately is the moral compass of the individual, which an Amalekite is a caregiver. And even in the Amalekite, the one ancient tribe that which was meant to be slaughtered by Saul for the accusations of killing and bringing men, women, and children of the Israel. At the Amalekites, you might find once again, they will always enter heaven. It is an unreconcilable conflict of interest. They birth the lives and they birth the deaths. And in this dark magic, you might see once again the Amalekites specifically slaughtering children by the edge of the sword. In this particular notion, one might wonder what that might result in the metaphor to today's procedures. An Amalekite is always covered in blood, and they are not punishable nor forgivable, but they always will enter heaven. In their pursuit of specifically bringing and the killing of the men and women and children of Israel, you might find as a caregiver, as an individual that might be in the assisting process of birthing. At the moment of birth, the child is not always born alive, which if the child is born still, in the stillbirth, you find that the child is of a, you could say, not life state. Its body has developed, however, it simply never experienced life in itself. Within the Amalekites, you might find the darkness that which these individuals have to bear upon themselves, aiding the mothers that which are bringing these children into the world. Within the Amalekites, you might imagine how said dark magic now might be of a conflict of interest to the light, unreconcilable, not punishable, not forgiven, but can only be accepted into heaven. At that particular moment, you would find that the Amalekites, those that are the Amal, to labor. The Amalekites are the individuals that are to labor. And in the act of labor, you might find that upon performing labor, assisting in labor, you could say, delivering of the child. Without the Amalekites, you once again see the slaughtering or the bringing or the killing of men, women, and children of Israel. Why might that be? Imagine in their practice an individual Amalekite delivering a child, said child necessarily not being born alive. The father in their anger attacks. How could you have done this to my child? The Amalekite left with no other option but to specifically slaughter the man, the taking or bringing of the life. In the Amalekites, you see why they might have been unpunishable and unforgivable, but simply accepted the conflict of interest, the unreconcilable. If an Amalekite is able to bring an individual into life, they also can take said individual out of life. They are of an ancient wisdom, one of the first tribes. And from this particular tribe, once again, arises the notion, the birth givers of both life and death are not punishable nor forgivable, but will always be accepted into heaven. Thank you.